From our central studios in Monrovia, good evening, a pleasant welcome to Freedom Living News Basket. For the 5 minutes presentation of news from the News and Current Affairs Department of Freedom Communications Incorporated, with studios in Monrovia. My name is Alexander Nyenekenankari. Headlines and major stories we carry this evening. 2023 Female Candidates Network endorses President George Weah ahead of the presidential runoff election between him, Weah of the CDC, and Boakai of the UP. CPP political leader Alexander Cummings to endorse one of the two as presidential candidates in the presidential runoff elections early next week. Director General of the National Lottery Authority, Reginald Nangbe, discloses that over 100 disabled citizens of Liberia benefit from the government of Liberia through watchful eyes of Vice President Jua Howard Taylor. Away from home, in Nigeria, presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar says Nigeria is doomed as a response to court ruling. The details of this, including the news bulletin, the voices behind the news, including spokes and the foreign developments, are all packaged in this presentation. First, the news bulletin with Anthony Phillips.
Good evening, Alexander, and good evening, everyone. Political leader of the opposition collaborating political parties, Alexander Cummings, says he will shortly endorse one of the two presidential candidates in the presidential runoff elections in the country later this week. Recently, the National Election Commission declared that the presidential runoff election will take place between incumbent President George Weah of the Coalition for Democratic Change and former Vice President Joseph Boakai of the Unity Party on November 14. The statement by Alexander Cummings comes as losing candidates in the October 10, 2023 presidential and legislative elections has been endorsing, that is, either President George Weah or former Vice President Joseph Boakai ahead of the November 14 presidential runoff elections. Cummings was expected to do well in the October 10 polls, but performed poorly in the first round of the presidential elections that were held in Liberia. Speaking in an interview with the VOA Daybreak Africa, the CPP standard bearer Cummings explained that the CPP is investigating circumstances surrounding the poor performance of the party, but fell short of mounting a legal challenge. Director General of the National Lottery Authority, Reginald Nangbe, has disclosed that over 100 disabled citizens of Liberia has benefited from the government of Liberia through the watchful eyes of Vice President Jua Howard Taylor. Appearing on state radio Monday, Director Nangbe further said that each of the several disabled people in Liberia has continuously received over 25,000, that's 25 United States dollars, for transportation to go to school since the inception of President George Weah. According to him, former Vice President Joseph Boakai squandered all of the opportunities that were given to him over the years, adding that all of the 5 departments within the National Lottery Authority now have their own vehicle each. He, however, assured that with the level of work done across Liberia, President George Weah will get over 90% of members of the disabled community in the runoff election slated for November 14. The Coalition for the Establishment of War and Economic Crimes Court has expressed grave concern on the election and re-election of major warlords and individuals accused of war crimes and economic crimes court. That's war and economic crimes at various levels of the national legislature in the October 10, 2023 presidential and legislative elections in Liberia. The coalition, which comprises of 30 pro-democratic organizations, human rights and civil society organizations, religious and faith institutions, traditional leaders, women and youth groups also expressed disappointment on voters over the election and re-election of the war and economic crimes suspect to public offices. Addressing a press conference following a meeting held in Monrovia during the weekend, the lead campaigner of the coalition, Adama Dempster, said the election of former warlords in the legislature has created what he termed as continual roadblock on the passage of a bill establishing the War and Economic Crimes Code over the years. According to him, the election and re-election of these individuals has the propensity to undermine the quest for justice, accountability, and the advocacy for instituting war and economic crimes courts in Liberia. The coalition reaffirmed its commitment to pursue of justice and accountability for war crimes, that's war victims and survivors alike, including women and youth who suffer heinous crimes perpetrated by warlords and fighting groups in Liberia. A commissioner at the National Elections Commission has challenged citizens taking legal action against political parties and politicians suspected of violating regulations on political parties' campaign financing in the country. NEC Commissioner Anthony Boakai Dukley said some individuals willingly violated the regulation on campaign financing without regard to the consequences to the Liberian people simply due to their desire to win. Remarking at a one-day stakeholder conference on handling the breaches of NEC political parties' campaign regulations in Monrovia, Commissioner Dukley maintained that just a symptom on how it is deeply rooted for people violates other laws disregarding the laws created to govern the society. For her part, the resident coordinator of the United Nations in Liberia, Christine Yumutuni, thanked the Integrity Watch Liberia and the National Elections Commission for promoting responsible campaign financing in the country. She also thanked the Liberian government for financing the entire electoral processes, as it is the first time Liberia undergoes election without funding from the United Nations. Opposition Unity Party has appointed Nima County defeated independent senatorial candidate Yan Tuan as coordinator of the party's campaign team in Nima County. Unity Party National Chairman Reverend Luther Tappet said the appointment of Tuan as coordinator of the rescue team in Nima County is an indication of the party among the leaders under one umbrella. Chairman Tappet spoke when he officially commissioned Yan Tuan as coordinator of the rescue team in Nima County, that's in Ganta, Nima County, on Monday. Accepting his appointment, the defeated independent senatorial candidate Yan Tuan promised to team up with Senators Prince Johnson and Jeremiah Kuhn to win Nima County for the rescue team. According to him, those who are coming to campaign against the rescue team in Nima County do not have the number to win Nima County to the Coalition for Democratic Change. Montserrado County District 13 representative has reaffirmed his commitment to citizens of the district in regards to fulfilling promises made during the campaign of the 2023 presidential and legislative elections. Speaking with citizens over the weekend, Representative Edward Flumo said his platform, which include better health care system, empowerment, safe drinking water, education, electricity, among others, will always be paramount during his second term in the legislature. The District 13 lawmaker, however, donated 300 street lights to residents of the district in appreciation for re-electing him, thus vowing to continue to advocate for more lights in order for the entire district to be electrified. He further assured the citizens to do the most appropriate things in the interests of District 13 and the country at large. Meanwhile, Representative Flomo has officially launched a door-to-door campaign for the re-election bid of President George Weah across the district. He said President Weah, being one of Liberia's best presidents, there is a need for citizens to give the president another 6 years to lead the country in a developmental way. Government, through the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, has released its report on the COVID-19 stimulus package. The program, known as the Government of Liberia COVID-19 Household Food Support Program, targeted 500,000 food insecure households, equivalent to approximately 2.5 million people, based on the average household size in Liberia. The program was financed through a 25 million grant with contribution from the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning and the Ministry of Agriculture and World Bank. Speaking to a team of journalists over the weekend in Monrovia, the former Commerce Minister Wilson Tappet, who spearheaded the stimulus package initiative, disclosed that over 2 million Liberians benefited from the full rotation program, which was implemented to support citizens during the COVID-19 pandemic. According to him, government implemented the program following the declaration of a state of emergency in April 2020 after the first COVID-19 case was reported in Liberia. It aimed to provide short-term food and nutritional support to vulnerable households during the restriction imposed to contain the virus. President George Weah has received another huge endorsement ahead of the November 14 presidential runoff. The latest to join the CDC is the former opposition All-Liberian Party of businessman turned politician Benuna Yuri. Receiving the endorsement over the weekend in Congo Town, President Weah lauded supporters of the All-Liberian Party for their return to the CDC and promised to work with them in the best interest of the country. The Liberian leader recorded his time working with the Uri family years back and said it's time for the people to put their interests of the country above personal interest. For his part, reading the endorsement statement earlier on, ALP political leader Benona Uri said that's predicated upon President George Weah, enormous and massive development being undertaken, and as such, he should be afforded another 6 years to complete his developmental initiative across the country. According to him, the ALP is not prepared to dance with the devil, noting that the party has finally returned home. The one-time presidential candidate stated that the decision by his team to support President Weah for the runoff election was done through consultation and assessment of the remaining two candidates. Mr. Yue emphasized that his decision to support President Weah is geared towards making the country stable and not veer off in the wrong direction against. And the presidential bail of Unity Party standard bearer Joseph Boakai has received a major setback with just 2 weeks to the November 14 runoff elections. Controversial Representative Yeke Kodoba, who was appointed recently on the campaign team of the Unity Party, also rejected the position and described it as devilish. On Sunday, Representative Kodoba announced that he would not campaign for the Unity Party in the runoff elections due to what he termed as alleged lack of respect by members of the opposition. According to the controversial lawmaker, since 2018 to now, he has been disrespected by the Unity Party leadership despite of spending thousands of dollars on the party. He said that he's also alleged of rejecting over 50,000 United States dollars from the ruling Coalition for Democratic Change in the 2020 senatorial election to support Representative Thomas Fowler. According to him, although his vote is reserved for the UP standard bearer Joseph Boakai, for neither the party flag bearer nor the vice standard bearer Jeremiah Cohen and others have recognized his commitment to dramatically unseat President Weah. The District 10 lawmaker made a statement over the weekend on the Oro when he addressed schools of journalists. That's the news bulletin. Is back to you, Alexander Yenekin, for the continuation of Freedom News Basket.
Anthony Phillips with the news bulletin. He returns later on for the foreign development. If you're just joining us, you are listening to Freedom Living News Basket, 45 minutes presentation of news from Liberia and across the world. One of the top developments we carry this evening, 2023 Female Candidates Network endorses incumbent President George Weah ahead of the presidential runoff election between the CDC and the UP. Let's not bring you the actual forces behind the news, beginning with this development. A group under the banner 2023 Female Candidates Network has endorsed incumbent President George Weah ahead of the presidential runoff election between the CDC and the Unity Party. Addressing the press conference Monday, the female candidates said though they did not win the first round of the 2023 elections, they are proud of themselves for contesting, adding those of them that contested as independent candidates and political party tickets candidates know firsthand the challenges they faced in being nominated as a candidate. This to talk about running a campaign in a male-dominated space. According to them, making decisions as to what side to take in this runoff election at this critical time in a country's history is not an exception to put aside their ideology, goals, and values, but to stand on them to make the right decision for Liberia. They call on all of their many supporters to join them in supporting the second term bid of President Weah, which they termed as right thing to do, as that's at the same time calling on the women of Liberia to vigorously campaign over the next few days to ensure that their goal is achieved. Slonti, that's Ms. Slonti, spoke on behalf of the team.
We are gathered here to congratulate our fellow women who stood tall to contest the 2010-2023 general elections. Whether we or lost, we are proud of ourselves for contesting because those of us who contested as independent candidates and those who ran on political party tickets know firsthand the challenges that we face in being nominated as a candidate. This was thought they were running a campaign in the male-dominated space. Now that the legislative election is over and a runoff election has been announced for the top two presidential candidates, it is now upon us to decide which side to direct our many supporters in the best interest of the women of Liberia and our country at large. As women candidates, we cannot escape or ignore the time of decision making in our body politics. We are stuck in our various corners. Those corners we ran to many times, but we felt left out in the decision making process of our country when we were faced with campaign challenges and when we felt our rights have been violated. These corners keep reminding us about our ideology, our goals, and our values. Each time we get reminded, we come out stronger. Making decisions as to what side to take in this runoff election is not an exception to put aside our ideology, our goals, and our values, but to stay on edge to make the right decision for our beloved country that we so much pledge our allegiance. We are women candidates who contested a just election as independent candidates and some on various political party tickets with different ideologies and interests in the first round of election. We are very proud of ourselves for putting aside our different political interests and narrowing them down to a single interest, which is to uphold our legacy to fight and support women in leadership and women political participation. This message of women empowerment and women political participation, which we as female candidates so to our constituents while campaigning for ourselves, cannot be a different message now, especially since a female is on the ballot. With the above being said, in the spirit of national unity and development, we, the members of the 2023 Female Candidate Network, are pleased to endorse the We Are Taylor ticket.
She's the spokesperson of the 2023 female candidates. They're speaking. Political leader of the opposition collaborating political parties, Alexander Cummins, says he will shortly endorse one of the two presidential candidates in the presidential runoff elections in the country later next week. The statement by Alexander Cummings comes as losing candidates in the October 10th, 2023 presidential legislative elections have been endorsing Ala President Weah or former Vice President Bouaka ahead of the November 14 presidential runoff election. Speaking in an interview with the Voice of America Daybreak Africa, CPP Standard Bearer Alexander Cummings explained that the CPP is investigating circumstances surrounding the poor performance of the party, but fell short of mounting a legal challenge.
We believe the results announced do not reflect the will of the people. We believe the election was fraudulent. We are trying to investigate and to understand what happened and to try to prove that. It seems unfathomable that in 2017, when I was not known by anybody in the country, we got 7% of the electorate, and after 6 years, we got less than 2%. And so the results will make no sense to us. And again, we're trying to investigate. So we are investigating, and we will only challenge if we think we have enough proof. If we don't, we will continue the process more, again, for posterity to make sure we understand what happened so that we can avoid the sort of fraud that happened this time in the future.
You have met with both President Weah and former Vice President Bouaka. Who do you plan on supporting in the runoff?
What I find interesting, James, is that both the President of the Republic and the former Vice President of the former ruling party both asked for meetings and actually came to my residence soliciting my support in the second round. You know, typically 1%ers, 2%ers don't get that kind of attention. But we set up a process for making that decision. That decision will be based on our change agenda. Which of these institutions we believe is committed to fundamentally changing our country? There are some things that fundamentally changed with regards to Vice President Bouaka, his tickets, and some of the folks around him. But we cannot and we should not blindly give our support to anybody. Our support should be based on the interests of the Liberian people. And I make no apologies to anybody for engaging the two parties in the runoff around the issues we fought this election around, meaning judicial reform, meaning changing the economic environment so that businesses and the private sector can thrive, women empowerment. These are substantial issues that we believe, if addressed, will begin to change and reduce the suffering of our people. And so, yes, opposition, current ruling party or former ruling party, we want to have discussions around these issues, and we want them to publicly commit to the Liberian people that they will address these issues. My hope is that by Tuesday next week, we'll make a decision for our endorsement or non-endorsement, as you say, to be relevant. It has to happen in a timely fashion.
Alexander Benedict Cummings is the political leader of the collaborating political parties and one of the defeated presidential candidates in the 2023 elections. They are speaking. Opposition Unity Party has appointed Nimba County defeated independent senatorial candidate Yan Twain as coordinator of the party's campaign team in Nimba County. Unity Party National Chairman Reverend Ruto Tampa said the appointment of Twain as coordinator of the rescue team in Nimba County is an indication of the party among the leaders under one umbrella. Chairman Tampa spoke when he officially commissioned Yan Twain as coordinator of the rescue team in Ganta, Nimba County on Monday.
All of the great politicians, political actors who are choosing country above money, who want to see a great future of prosperity and progress instead of George Weah, money and inducement. I want to say to you, Mr. Yan Twain, you definitely will only build up the great team in the Nimba County region. And as you called on the political leaders of the different counties, let me add my voice. If we all say we love Liberia, this is the time that we must stand up for the destiny and the soul of this country. Joseph Newman Bouaka is the man who will lay the foundation of prosperity and progress. With JKK beside him, Liberia will never be the same. Vote number one. Vote number one. And don't let them buy your voting card. That's what CDC depend on. We're big men coming on the 14th of November. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Accepting his appointment, the defeated independent senatorial candidate Yan Twain promised to team up with Senator Spring Johnson and Jeremiah Kung to win Nimba County for the rescue team. According to him, those who are coming to campaign against the rescue team in Nimba County do not have the number to win the county to the Coalition for Democratic Change.
Through all my adult life, I have never known any political party other than the Unity Party. And so the overwhelming and loud voice of the people of Nimba suggests clearly that the political decision based upon the incumbency rule, the party was right. I have since called Senator Johnson to congratulate him. And he and I, we are now on the same path, putting resources and manpower together to sweep the rest of the voting. I can also say in the same vein, beginning with the hard work, we were able to get to the executive committee of the party, the Unity Party, and its members. We hereby accept the position contract. I also want to declare here publicly, as I've already done in private with members of my team, that all logistics, militants, members, everything that belongs to the United Tribe Movement for Senate, including all of the logistics and movement and paraphernalia, will hereby be turned over to the United Party. I will spend the next 12 days of crusade in Nimba fishing for the votes that were left behind.
Monserrado District Acting Representative Edward Flomo has reaffirmed his commitment to citizens of the district in regards to fulfilling promises made during the campaign of the 2023 presidential legislative elections. Speaking with citizens over the weekend, Representative Flomo said his platforms, which include better health care system, empowerment, safe drinking water, education, electricity, among others, will always be paramount during his second term in the legislature.
We will do more. So in our march that we are here today, we'll make sure we do the best appropriate thing. I will be the interest of the district, the community, and the country as a whole. Going to present some items to smaller communities in terms of transformer, street light. We are able to bring a street light and transformer for Africa. And we're getting another additional more transformer coming in country by money. But most of the community are desperate today. They are not requesting for food or money, but they are desperate for development. And Borja will carry on development for each of the community. And even our representative for these things will remain there. And these are the, today also will be electrifying for Mid Georgia Junction to go straight in the estate street light. We are drawing 300 street light for the people of District 13. As we touch in Mid Georgia Junction all the way in the estate tonight, tomorrow we'll be visiting Magic Factory, Stone Creek community. Today we also will be carrying a pipe-borne water there for the people. Today in the history of District 13, out of 38 community, I touched 34 community with pipe-borne water. Many community have 2 water chaos, and then 3 water chaos. We are giving more than 500 water chaos in the district. You see the transformer here today at 25,000 US. Usually here today at 150. We're going to appreciate what people they tell and take it for the 500 here.
Meanwhile, Representative Flomo has officially launched a door-to-door campaign for the re-election of President George Weah across the district. He called on citizens across the district to vote number 2 for peace, development, and many others during the run of election on November 14.
The official launch of District 13, making sure that the president be re-elected. The campaign will be door to door, house to house, window to window. These are the things the president intends doing for the people. That's why today the president attached all of the 15 counties. Today, first of a kind in the history of Liberia since 1922, when America was attacked Germany, the Rawafi Highway Road from here, Derry Junction to Rawafi, it was just a one-lane road. But first of a kind, under His Excellency, Dr. John Mano, we are creating a full-lane road that is up to international standard. So the campaign message here to our people is to enlighten their mind, to make them to know that the reason we decide to carry the president, it is because of many developments we are carrying on in the 15 counties. Today when you talk about hospital, when you talk about local connectivity, a lot of good things we have been doing in the country. And we'll make sure District 13 will be on no goals over any opposition. This District 13, the president over 1 million won in district, 19,000 plus votes. By the grace of God, the Richard Ali 30,000. So November 14, vote number 1, 2. Voting 2 because 2 represent 1 peace. That's why the gay drug we are 2 members of peace. The best president ever that Bureau have produced in the history.
Edward Flomo is Monserrado District 13 representative. The speaking. Well, folks, if you're just joining us, you are listening to Freedom Evening News Basket, exactly 7:30. There's bring you stories we carry in this evening. 2023 Female Candidates Network endorses incumbent President George Weah ahead of the presidential runoff elections between the CDC and the Unity Party. CPP political leader Alexander Cummings to endorse one of the two presidential candidates next Tuesday ahead of the runoff presidential election. Director General of the National Lottery Authority Regional Nangbe assures President George Weah of 90% of members of the disabled community in voting for him during the runoff election. And away from home, the Nigeria presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar described Nigeria as being dumped after Supreme Court ruled against him. Let's take this. We will come back, continue with more developments on this presentation. Welcome back and thanks for rejoining us. Director General of the National Lottery Authority Regional Nangbe has disclosed that over 100 disabled citizens of Liberia have benefited from the government of Liberia through the watchful eyes of Vice President Joe Hawatida. Appearing on State Radio Monday, Director Nangbe furthered that each of several disabled people in Liberia has continuously received over $25 for transportation to go to schools since the inception of President George Weah. He, however, showed that with the level of work done across the Liberia, President George Weah will get over 90% of members of the disabled community in the runoff elections slated for November 14.
Today, we have more than 60 disabled people, men and women. We empower them. We smart up. We know that we need that. Reference the toilet to have the education to lead the country. That's the reason we want to disprove them. And what authority should be used for the administrative role of the authority. Then we should conduct the national, but we're going through the process, we want to outsource it. So pretty soon, the revenue from that game should be used to help the disabled community, but $200,000 on an annual basis to use it to help our disabled people in other institutions. We get a lot of students at the university level. We just get them 100% cement to complete the off. These are things that were there. So when you guys pay blind eyes to them, you decide to enrich yourself. When people say that we corrupt, you look at the records on the book of these guys that call us corrupt people. Squandered all of the opportunity they gave him. In natural territory, in the agriculture sector. Our records will prove all of the more 90% of the disabled community. I can say it without fear of failure. Will beat Mr. Bwaka face down. On the day of resurrection, we never resurrect. It is so zealous that he has spread the momentum to see how best to get Mr. President elected.
A commissioner at the National Elections Commission has challenged citizens taking legal actions against political parties and politicians suspected of violating regulations on political parties' campaign financing in the country. NEC Commissioner Anthony Mbwaka-Dukley said some individuals willingly violated the regulations on campaign financing without regard to the consequences to the Liberian people simply due to their desire to win. Remarking at one-day stakeholders conference on handling the breaches of NEC political parties' campaign regulations in Monrovia, Commissioner Dukley maintained that just a syndrome on how it is deeply rooted for people who violate other laws disregarding the laws it created to govern the society.
I believe citizens should have the right and the law should be to sue people that they have passed the limit and be able to prove it, because institutions are manned by people who have several connections. It may be difficult for these people to really enforce these laws. Individuals in our society can sue, can go to court and say, Councillor Ting